This year, our company launched a 1-hour test for diarrhea. I know what you're all thinking. This guy's got a shitty job. And some days it's true. But seriously, diarrhea is a serious problem. Kills thousands of children worldwide. And it used to take up to hours, days, to get a conclusive diagnostic result and get on the right treatment. Now it takes an hour. So I want to tell you a little bit about how my colleagues and I at Biofire, how we did this. But first I need to go back a few decades. So I as a teenager, I worked on my family's potato farm west of Idaho Falls, Idaho. And it was a great big thing. We busted it out of the sagebrush. My job was picking up sprinkler pipe and carrying it through mud. Did it 1,000,000 times. Hated that job. I was terrible at it. I was a nerdy little kid with really bad hay fever. And when you're carrying 50 pounds of sprinkler pipe and mud, you can't wipe your nose. And it's just pure, absolute misery. Well, one day I got a summer cold on top of everything, and my mom took pity on me, drove me into the doctor's office. Of course, the doctor had absolutely no clue what I was infected with. But I remember what he said. Well, it's probably just a virus, but we'll give you an antibiotic just in case. Took the pills, and that night, my face swelled up so bad I couldn't see, could barely breathe. Mom rushed me into the hospital, now to treat an allergic reaction to penicillin. The good news was I didn't have to move pipe that day. The bad news, it just nagged at me. I could never get over the feeling that there had to be some better way to diagnose disease. As a kid, I loved chemistry. So here we are, out in the desert. You can see my friends there, Chuck and John. They're, of course, wearing the appropriate protective gear, shorts. And then in college, I took a class in biochemistry. And let me tell you, I was hooked for life. Compared to the chemistry of bombs and rockets, biochemistry is infinitely more complex and infinitely more beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful thing in the universe, which, by the way, on the farm, you can see a lot of. Just jet black sky, light years of space spread out across the sky. And I want you to imagine the most beautiful night sky you've ever seen. It's awesome. But everything out there, for light years into the distance, it's dust and gas acted on by a handful of physics equations. It is boring in comparison to the chemistry happening inside a microscopic bacterium, the simplest cell. So this is a cartoon of my favorite molecule, DNA. It's in the embraces of this protein molecule. DNA chemistry created literally all life on Earth. It is the information system inside every one of your cells. It tells your cells how to be cells. And it's the scaffold on which all of our proteins and enzymes are built. But it wasn't discovered until just before I was born. I find that unbelievably remarkable. When I was a young student, molecular biology was a brand new term. It was a whole new science. And my colleagues and I at Biofire, we helped advance this field. And along the way, we made some money. You've all had points in your life, in your career, that in retrospect, would either make or break your career. And for me, one of those was when Carl Whitwer offered me a job on his PhD project. Our family farm had gone spectacularly bankrupt. I was broke. I needed money for school. So I said yes without even thinking about it. And that was the best business decision I ever made in my entire life. We formed a company. I was from Idaho. Carl, meanwhile, had gone on and gotten a PhD and an MD, taken a position at the U, formed a company. We were making these things in the corner of my family's potato roller company in Idaho Falls. So I named the company Idaho Technology. Oxymoron, joke name. Maybe not the best business decision I ever made, but we changed it later. We licensed technology from the University of Utah, and then in the late 90s, we developed a system called the Light Cycler. We licensed it to Roche, which is the leading diagnostics company in the world. And this was our first really big foray into doing business outside the United States. We worked really closely with Roche, both in Germany and Switzerland for years, to help make the Light Cycler an international success. And there are now tens of thousands of these systems in service. We developed a military variant of the instrument used to test for biological warfare agents like anthrax and plague. And then all of these technologies kind of came together to form the film array, which we invented. It's our most recent product. And the film array is a platform that offers physicians and hospital labs an extremely easy to use, comprehensive diagnostic platform. And oddly enough, it started off in McDonald's. So I have here a prop. It's a package of ketchup. I was sitting at a table and my kids were playing in the ball pit. They're in there with the MRSA and the Staphylococcus and who knows what else is growing in there. So I kind of had that on my mind. And then at the same time, I was sitting at the table and I was squishing this not this package of ketchup, it's not that old. Got it at McDonald's today, as a matter of fact. I was squishing a package of ketchup back and forth in my fingers, and all of a sudden it just hit me. So this system we use, it's called PCR, technology for amplifying DNA. It requires you heat and cool the sample over and over again. Each time, the number of copies of DNA doubles. Well, if I had a sample like this, and these fingers were hot, and these fingers were cold, I could squish the sample into these fingers, heat it up, squish it back, pop, 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 really quickly. And we wouldn't be heating and cooling the surroundings, just the sample itself. We developed an instrument, and within a couple of years, we were selling a system for the military, a battery-operated DNA analysis instrument for the military to use for biothreat. And at the same time, we realized that if we could do that, we could do a lot more. So we developed this. So it's the same kind of deal. It's almost like a ketchup package, plastic film, and you could squish a sample around, take a raw sample that goes into one end and gets processed through multiple steps to the other side to diagnostic results. It's a whole laboratory in a pouch. And that's the basis for really most of the growth of our company. We've got, our first product is a test for all of the common causes of the flu. So the lab technician loads a nasal swab into one side of the pouch, water into the other, and an hour later the machine does the rest. Test for all of these different causes of flu. Some of them require an antiviral drug, some of them require an antibiotic. For example, Bordetella pertussis is a bacterium, causes whooping cough, which kills a lot of children worldwide. And this is an interesting slide. It's kind of complicated, but it's from the National Institutes of Health. It shows the number of years of life lost to various causes worldwide. Whooping cough actually merits its own little box. Like I said, it kills a lot of children. So it gets upweighted because it kills young people. You've all lost family members to the big killers, heart attack, stroke. The green block down there is injuries, deaths to injuries. Car crashes is that big block down at the very bottom. If you watch the news and you would think that war would be a major killer. Every day we're flooded with scenes, bombs and airplanes being shot out of the sky. But there's war. It's really small in comparison to the big block of infectious diseases. War is a relatively minor problem. Infectious disease, the sorts of things we're chasing in our company, are major killers. There's respiratory infections and diarrhea. Our next product is aimed at meningitis. Meningitis is infections of the brain and the linings of the brain. It is an unbelievably bad disease. You can take someone of any age, young, teenage, middle age, old, and what starts off as the flu or maybe just a headache, within a few hours just gets steadily worse and worse. And by the time you go to the doctor, it can sometimes be too late. So my walk on the way to work in the Salt Lake foothills frequently takes me through this really pleasant cemetery where the markers, they're set down into the grass. And I frequently see this marker. So the ballerina was named Madeline Hales, and she was a schoolmate of my oldest son's at Bonneville Elementary for a while. This is every parent's worst nightmare. They did everything right. We have great medical care close by. And yet, despite the best efforts of physicians and staff, they were unable to save her. This is why we set out to do what we set out to do. This is the problem we decided we were going to try and fix. But I think several people have said it here today. There are problems in all directions. It doesn't matter whether you're in communications or healthcare, as we are, or software, entertainment, anything. If there's a problem that matters to you, it probably matters to somebody else willing to pay for the right solution. I heard cell phones, just as an example. The guys that invented cell phones, they weren't out to solve African problems. They just wanted to make a call without being tethered to a box on the wall. But I've heard that 68% of Africans carry cell phones now. I just find that remarkable. They've skipped entirely over landlines, and they're jumping straight to smartphones. So you never know where your idea is going to lead. You never know where a good idea is going to come from. And you don't know exactly what the path is like to get it from an idea all the way to your eventual customers. You have to work that out. But those problems will solve themselves for a good enough idea. All the problems of sales and marketing, of scale up, they will solve themselves by some means for a good idea. Our little company, again, founded by a guy who lived in a trailer house and moved irrigation pipe for a living, our little company, in the end, was bought by a French diagnostics company for almost $500 million. And we now have this incredible partner. We are still doing R&D. We're still doing manufacturing right here. But we're selling in dozens of countries. And we are working with our new partners at bioMérieux to take our products to the world and to change the way diagnostics is done. And all of this, from our standpoint, the purpose of all of it is so that when you or somebody you love gets really, really sick and you need to know why, we'll be at a hospital or a clinic really close by.